Hello, my name is Mike Ward and I'm the Head of Content at Informa Pharma Intelligence. We're here in Vienna at the Bio-Europe Spring Meeting where pharmaceutical, biotechs, investors all get together to talk about the trends in the industry and also explore opportunities for both partnering and investment. Obviously, there are a lot of the discussions around new hot areas, new technologies. And one of them is actually in the RNA space, where we're seeing a lot of companies focusing on that. I'm joined by Vanessa King, who's the CEO of Virion Biotherapeutics. You're an RNA-focused company in the anti-infective space.
Well put.
Yeah. So RNA, as I say, a lot of people are now talking about RNA, but obviously it does a lot of different things. So what is it that you guys are specifically focusing on?
So what Virion is focusing on is taking into the clinic a novel modality based on RNA, a piece of RNA that's packaged into an inactive virus, and through that inactive influenza virus delivered right to the cells of the lung, where other viruses either have already infected a patient or are going to try to infect that patient. So what's special here really is an optimized piece of RNA delivered locally to the cells where they need to act.
And what is that piece of RNA actually doing?
So what it does, it delivers broad-spectrum antiviral killing so it could be flu, it could influenza, it could be RSV, it could be rhinovirus. Right. And the way it does that is through local stimulation of the innate immune response.
Right. And so this is a platform that you've actually developed.
Yes.
But you're focusing on which areas to start with?
It's important to deliver broad-spectrum antiviral activity across the full swath of respiratory viruses, because today 85% of them are not treatable, addressable by either vaccines or by treatment. Today, only influenza A is the only bug for which you have effective treatment or prevention, and even there you can argue how effective it is. Yeah. So if someone heads to their doctor's office, chances are that their doctor won't have anything in the armamentarium to give them to help alleviate that disease. And Virion aims to change that calculus.
So the science, it came from where originally?
It came from University of Warwick, two professors there, Nigel Dimmock and Andrew Easton, who'd spent their entire professional lives figuring out how do you inhibit the replication of viruses. And in fact, how do viruses inhibit their own replication? And that's why our piece of RNA was selected in vivo screens for literal efficacy in preclinical in vivo models, so optimized by nature. Right,
so you guys have now taken that technology. Where in the development cycle are you?
We're in what we call late preclinical, so a couple of years from filing our IND and taking this into the clinic. So we're building out all of the preclinical pharmacology to have a full IND package and to know how to dose this effectively in the clinic, doing all of the CMC, and also figuring out and executing on our device strategy, because this is going to be an inhaled agent ultimately. There's been a lot of advancements in inhaler technology, so we feel very confident, but that's a piece of what we're doing now, getting clinic ready.
Right, and you've been funded by venture capital.
We have.
So how much? When was the last time you raised money, and where are you in the the spending cycle for that?
So the company was founded when Abingworth put in £13 million in September of 2017. Yeah. Concurrently, we had some non-dilutive funding from the US agency DARPA, which we're really pleased about. So right now, we have a pretty hefty bank account. At the same time, I really want to make sure that we're funded all the way through to our next value inflection, which frankly is proof of concept in the clinic. Yeah. Through challenge studies in phase 2. So we will be out fundraising again later this year.
Right, and so what is the timeline to get to that inflection point?
So we plan to enter the clinic again in a couple of years, probably the beginning of 2021, and we anticipate a couple of years after that to be able to have gone through the phase 1 program. Clearly there's different populations you do, not just normal healthy adults, but there's also subpopulations in whom these sorts of infections are particularly dangerous, even life-threatening. So asthmatics, COPD, elderly, immune compromised. So our clinical strategy, which we can go into at some stage in future, has all of those various elements. But to get to a stage of we really know that this works in humans, broad spectrum, first ever, after that phase 2 challenge.
So you described it as a broad spectrum approach. What are the sort of the first indications, though, that you're actually going to?
Broad spectrum antiviral, the first one ever. Our head of clinical, the folks involved in our discovery and development have done this before with single viral therapeutics. And so we know the context of that, and we've already started to engage the regulatory agencies in what is the regulatory path to approval. We can anticipate possibly focusing a bit on some of these higher risk populations where really we see even more energy around preventing those patients from getting ill, or treating those patients early. For example, prevention of exacerbations in asthmatics.
So it's actually going to be for a general population rather than, say, a hospital population?
Yes, exactly. We anticipate there will be hospital use, especially because there's this prophylactic prevention piece, but that will come later.
So that in itself requires a completely different sort of infrastructure. So, what are your sort of plans to actually, I guess, develop a product that would get into patients?
So right now we're doing everything to be, phase 3 ready, and that phase 3 product, which will be an inhaled product, we anticipate being what we commercialize. So
would you try and commercialize it yourselves, or are you looking for?
We plan to build Virion into a company. So our plans are for really the long term. Will there be another natural owner of this? A better natural owner at some stage? There might be.
Right.
We've certainly had a lot of interest from pharma partners who've seen this area as quite intractable with traditional small molecules and biologics, and see this new modality as potentially a path forward.
Okay, so the money that you're going to sort of seek, which I think you said during this year. Can you sort of give us some sort of idea of the sort of the size of that round?
It'll be a pretty hefty Series B. I don't want to put a specific number on it yet, just because we're still really pulling that together, doing the analysis to understand what would it take, to fully get us through phase 2. I think a lot of companies are notorious at underestimating that, so we want to give it a really good sizing. And similarly, at the moment, we're working on building out our pipeline beyond this particular agent that we've spoken about, and so we anticipate, funding for that also going into the Series B. So sorry to waffle on the question.
No. So
that is the best answer today.
It's a big number,
yes.
as much as you can get. So and sort of going beyond. So what does going beyond, when you sort of say you're looking at other areas? What's on your radar?
We've thought of a couple of different dimensions. It's probably premature to go into them. There's certainly the platform expansion, and then there's the therapeutic area expansion, and we're looking at those dimensions and others.
Right. Okay. And if we just sort of think about the sort of the money that you raised when you got it from Abingworth, what was it you kind of like promised them that you would deliver, and how close are you to ticking that box?
Right. I was actually not part of the founding team that pulled down the first round. Abingworth is very comfortable with us advancing the program to essentially a stage where tech transfer is done. It's gone from something in a university to a full-fledged drug discovery program. So that's really the box they wanted us to tick is on the way to IND, CMC, all in hand, and on the path to having a device. But they've continued to be a very supportive investor.
Okay, so in the next 12 months, what are the sort of the highlights or the sort of the milestones that we should be sort of looking out for?
Well, definitely a lot of presentation of preclinical data. This is such a novel modality. We've had a lot of interest in it. People in the fields of virology and the fields of immunology. Every time we go out and talk about what we're doing, present the data we have, say show us more. So there's a large influenza conference in Singapore in August. We anticipate being there in some way. Again, we need to be cautious about how much we put out there and at what stage, but to make sure that we don't compromise the program, but we'll be there. Concurrently, we may well announce an academic collaboration or two. We're working on some. Those can be tremendously beneficial. You have to find just the right fit, though, of people. And then internally, we're going to be hitting a ton of milestones with respect to the manufacturing, the device selection, and moving to be able to have drug product in hand to go into our GLP tox studies in 2020.
Great. Okay, well, Vanessa, thanks very much. Sounds like you've got a busy year ahead of you.
We sure do. Hey, thanks so much, Mike.